Okay, so it's Sunday morning, about 10:30 in the morning. Shortly after I posted a video yesterday, we did our little invasion of Iran. And by now, of course, you all know about Operation Midnight Hammer. I've got a lot of things I want to say about this morning. I got a lot of random notes that I want to cover. I don't know if this is going to be very cohesive or not, but I've just got several thoughts that I want to share with all of you this morning. So if you'll bear with me while I may have to stop and start a few times because I've got notes everywhere that I want to cover. I spent this morning, as you know, I'm an invalid currently, so I'm not able to get out and go anywhere. I spent this morning just poring over a lot of the sources that I trust online. I watched the latest episode of the Duran. I know a lot of you watched the Duran, Alexander Mercouris and Alex, Lord, his name escapes me right now. Alex and Alexander, you know who I'm talking about if you watch the Duran. A lot of you that watch me found me through my appearance on the Duran, and these are good guys. They're solid as a rock. They are accurate, so their observations are very keen and very accurate, if you ask me. So I spent a little over an hour listening to them this morning. I spent some time listening to Mike Benz, to Steve Bannon. I did some reading this morning. I'm trying to muddle through the information that I have accessed so that I can formulate my own opinions. I'll start by telling you what you obviously know. I'm one guy down in Alabama. I'm not in the loop, as it were. I'm not inside the Beltway. I'm not at the Pentagon or the State Department. I'm not in the White House press corps. I'm not in the Situation Room. So, like anybody else, I have to gain my information from sources that I trust, and I have to expose myself to all sorts of information that you don't typically get with the mainstream media. Let me tell you something. If I hold up this notepad to you and I tell you this notepad is yellow, this notepad is yellow, what do you think I'm telling you? What do you think of this notepad? What color is this notepad? Is it yellow? I'm telling you it's yellow. Now I'm taking it away. Remember, that notepad was yellow. That's kind of how it is with the press. They're going to give you the corporate-owned press, the corporate-owned media, and the United States government that are in bed together in large part. They're going to give you a prevailing narrative about whatever is at the top of the headlines, of their headlines, and they just expect you to believe it. And so many Americans, it's just a fact, folks, so many Americans are just completely gullible, and they get their information from these sources in the corporate-owned media or from the government, the Trump government. And I don't care if it's Trump or Biden or Obama or Clinton or Bush. I don't care who it is. You've got to, as I said yesterday, question everything. You can't just accept at face value what you hear or what you read, what you hear on TV from the cable networks, or what you read online, and just formulate your opinion that this all, because the prevailing narrative is coordinated across the corporate-owned media. They are generally all reporting to you what they want you to believe as fact. And the White House, again, regardless of who the president is, they have their own narrative, and they present that to you, and they want you to believe that as fact. They want you to latch onto the prevailing narrative and question nothing. Don't question what the White House says. Don't question what President Trump or Biden or Obama say. Don't question the media. Just listen to what they say and formulate your opinion thusly. Don't expose yourself to any other sources of information. And that is exactly, I contend, what most Americans do. And we can't do that, folks. I'm one man down here, but I have decided long ago I'm not going to accept the prevailing narrative from the mainstream media or from whichever administration is in power at the present time. I'm going to go and dig. I'm going to expose myself to sources both in and out of the United States, both in and out of the dominant media, so that I can try and get a more accurate picture of what is going on in a given scenario. And that's what I've done on this. And I can't highly recommend guys like the Duran enough. I mean, they're just excellent, and they have their own thing going. They've got a great following. That is one source that I highly recommend. One thing I can tell you, folks, and I've got several things to talk about in no particular order, so just bear with me and as I try and cobble all these thoughts together. There is no denying the fact that we basically had peace in the Middle East prior to 1948, and since 1948, it has been nothing but trouble and trouble and trouble and trouble. It's been nothing but chaos since 1948. And here we go again. Now, we were told, again, the prevailing narrative that Iran was... I meant to put together a montage, and I forgot to do it, and I wish I had done it because it would be easy to do. We have been told for at least 20 years, over and over and over again by so many people, that Iran is just months away from having a nuclear weapon, or Iran is just weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. Iran is just days away, hours away from having a nuclear weapon. You could do a montage of people saying that, and the only person you'd have to put on there is Benjamin Netanyahu, who is on record over the past at least 2 decades of saying that very thing. We know that Iran is just days away, months away, weeks away, hours away from having a nuclear weapon. And, they do that to stir up the emotions of people who are then supposed to say, well, if they're just days away or weeks away from having a nuclear weapon, well, we got to do something about that. We got to stop them. That's the kind of reaction you get out of people like Sean the Pawn Hannity and the disgraceful Mark Levin and people of that ilk that are found on places like Fox News and the broadcast networks. You've got to ignore these people and dig for the truth, folks. Dig and find out what is really going on out there. Now, I've got a great idea. This just came into my head. This is original with me. I have a great idea for Ukraine. A great idea for Ukraine. Isn't it funny how the news cycle dictates the narrative? We've got our own problems here in the United States. Top of the list is our debt. Now it's over $37 trillion. Now, I try and strive to be objective. Trump has done a wonderful job to the issue of illegal immigration. I give him credit for that. I give Tom Homan credit for that. I think what they have done is exemplary, and I think that it's wonderful. But we have so many other issues in the United States, domestic issues, that need our attention. But the current prevailing narrative, of course, is Iran. And it's taken the attention off of all these other issues. It's also kind of taken the attention off of the Russia-Ukraine war. Trump's probably happy with that. I think that Trump would just like that whole thing to go away. Because, Trump is how he talks, he's braggadocious, this is everything. If you set a birthday cake in front of Trump, you know how he reacts. This is the greatest cake ever. It's huge. It's beautiful. It's tasty. Everybody loves it. Everybody agrees. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's wonderful. It's massive. It's huge. That's how Trump talks, right? In these grandiose terms. Well, Trump was talking about that, you recall, even before he was elected, that the Ukraine war never would have happened had he been president. I'm not so sure about that. That Putin is just basically going to bow down and do whatever Trump tells him to do. That's not happening. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. And Trump, by this point, knows it. And that's why you don't hear this kind of bellicose from Trump anymore with regard to Russia and Ukraine. You have seen Trump just kind of back off from that whole situation, and of course that's a good thing, but he's probably not unhappy that the actions that he took in Iran last night have kind of taken even more attention off of the Russia-Ukraine war and other hot spots of the world, India, Pakistan, and other domestic issues. I think Trump probably thinks he's right about all this. I don't know. But my advice to Volodymyr Zelensky would simply be this. Now get this. My advice to Zelensky, the current comedian puppet of Kiev, of Ukraine, my advice to Zelensky would simply be this. Get Benjamin Netanyahu on the phone and plead with him that he would allow the Ukraine to merge with Israel. Come on, man. Stop being stupid. Stop being silly. It is silly, I admit it. But think about it. If Israel and Ukraine could merge, if Israel and Ukraine could merge and become one united country, Ukraine's problems would disappear overnight. You see where I'm going with this? If it could be one nation, Ukraine, Israel, Israel, Ukraine, Ukraine's problems would disappear overnight. Why? Because regardless of who the President of the United States is, we since 1948 bend over backwards to do the bidding of the state of Israel. That's as simple as that. Almost every politician in Washington takes money from them, from AIPAC. Almost every politician in Washington and the president, regardless of party, they will go to any length to accommodate any of Israel's whims. Why is that? Because they're bought and paid for, folks. It's simple. It's as simple as that. American politicians, in large part, are paid off by the Israeli lobby. It's just as simple as that. Isn't that a shame? Would it concern you if you were to find out tomorrow that the vast majority of federal politicians in Washington, D.C. were on the payroll of Brazil or Iceland or Russia? How would you feel about that? It's funny that it doesn't seem to concern most Americans, or a lot of Americans, that most of our politicians are on Israel's payroll. Isn't that unbelievable? Go look it up. Go look up AIPAC. Look at it's there for the looking. Look at Ted Cruz. Look how much money he's taken from AIPAC. Republican or Democrat, it does not matter. The vast majority of them take money from the Israeli lobby. Folks, that ain't right. I don't care how you feel about Israel. I don't care if you are an evangelical and you still maintain that the nation state of Israel is somehow God's chosen country and those are God's chosen people. Even if you still believe that nonsense, you can't possibly think that American politicians should be bought and paid for by any foreign nation, be it Israel or anyone else. That's outrageous to me. It's unbelievable to me. What if Cuba owned the vast majority of our politicians? I mean, look, our politicians, by and large, are bought and paid for by somebody, some lobby, some corporation, some pharmaceutical corporation. But in this case, it is another nation entirely. That's just unbelievable to me. I can well remember one thing that made Ron Paul so attractive is he would never take money from any foreign lobby, of course, and he would never entertain a lobbyist in his office, ever. Man, don't you wish that were the case today? All right, so let me move on. Ukraine should merge. I know that sounds stupid, and of course it's never going to happen, but think about the logic of it. If Ukraine and Israel were one nation, then Ukraine would be golden. I mean, they've got it made if they could somehow merge with Israel. Now, I want to let me read this, and I don't have a reference from this. I read this morning on Twitter, and I did not write down the source, but it was a news outlet, but I forget which one. And I'll give you this for your consideration. I don't know if this is true. This is an analysis. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it is certainly plausible. Whether or not it will happen remains to be seen, but it is dealing with Iran's possible responses to this attack last evening. And it reads thusly: the first move in Iran's retaliation, and there will be retaliation. The first move in Iran's retaliation could be to block the Straits of Hormuz, a critical choke point where nearly a quarter of the world's oil flows. This narrow waterway connects the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean, and any disruption here would send oil prices skyrocketing, triggering global inflation and economic shockwaves. That I can absolutely see that as being a possibility if Iran chose to block the Straits of Hormuz. Now, let me insert something real quick. You may be saying, well, wait a minute, are you a homeboy for Iran all of a sudden? No, I'm not at all. I'm an American. My concern is for America. I'm not a homeboy for Iran. I'm not a homeboy for Israel. I'm not a homeboy for Russia, for Ukraine, for any other nation. I am an American. That is all that I care about right now. I simply question narratives, folks. It's as simple as that. Did Iran need to get their nuclear facilities bombed last night? I don't know. I fully admit a lot of this is over my head. I don't know. I'm not there. I can't verify exactly what the situation is, but I refuse to accept the prevailing narrative because, folks, so often we find out that what we're told in the mainstream media and by a given presidential administration is nothing but a lie. This has happened over and over and over again. It happened in Vietnam. It happened in Iraq. It happened in Libya. It happened in Serbia. It happened in Kosovo. It happens over and over and over again. The record is there. Regardless of administration, it is a record of lies. And I don't want to be gullible, and I don't want to believe a lie. And if an administration is giving me a narrative about Iran, I'm not going to just accept it as though it's gospel. I am naturally skeptical, and you should be too, regardless of where you live. Don't just open your mouth like a starving bass and just accept what you read in the mainstream media, what you read online, or what you hear from the administration. You may say, well, I voted for Trump, I love Trump, I like Trump, I support Trump, therefore I'm inclined to believe what the Trump administration is saying. That's fine. I voted for Trump as well. I supported Trump as well, and as I've said, there's a lot of things he's done that I agree with, but I am not going to accept what we are being told about this attack last night as being the actual situation just because it's Trump. I'm going to verify. Remember, Reagan, trust but verify. I'm going to verify as much as I can. Now, I read, there's a couple of more things I need to get to. I just want to insert this in no particular order. And I forgot to write down the citation as to which poll it is, but I think it's actually multiple polls. Pardon me. That have been taken. Oh, I need my coffee. That have been taken, which bear this out. And I just feel like, take that for whatever it's worth, just common sense, that this is probably accurate. But the polls that I've read were taken with regard to the American people's attitude toward Israel, and I found this significant and striking. The poll basically asked the recipients of the poll their views, these are American people, their views on Israel and whether or not they support the state of Israel. And the results were very interesting. This was broken down into various age groups and demographics, and what it found was that Americans over the age of 50 cared a great deal more about Israel than Americans under the age of 50. And I mean, in large numbers, Americans under the age of 50 care less and less and less about the state of Israel, and I believe that is a really good thing. Now, you stop and think about this when it comes to election time. For a certain demographic of Americans, if a politician can get up at a rally and ostensibly wave the Israeli flag, he's going to solidify support among a certain demographic. If another politician gets up and does not pay homage to Israel, he or she is going to be more popular with a demographic that is under the age of 50. I will remember, this kind of disappointed me, at some point prior to being chosen as the vice president, it was either before or shortly after that, it's almost like this obligatory trip that American politicians take. J.D. Vance goes over to Israel and puts on a yarmulke and stands at the Wailing Wall to say his prayers. And of course, he's not Jewish, but there he was. And I looked at that and I thought, what is this, man? What are you doing? Of course, most of the time, it's nothing but a publicity stunt to solidify the base of American voters who think that Israel is God's country and that, you know, we need to support Israel and we need to do Israel's bidding and whatnot. There are Americans, of course, who feel that way. And so the politicians do what they can to get these voters on board. But the polls indicate that by and large, Americans under the age of 50, not boomers. I think the boomers ended in 62. I was born in 61. I'm at the end of the boomer generation. But people that were born in such a time that after that period of time, people that are like 50 and below, Americans who are age 50 and below, care less and less and less about Israel. It just doesn't mean that much to them that we would be preoccupied with the affairs of the Israeli government, and they are more concerned about domestic issues than they are international issues, particularly if they include Israel. Now, that's a good trend, if you ask me. That's a really good trend. I can't stress it enough. I am America first. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a foreign policy, but our foreign policy, as far as I'm concerned, should be hands off. Nation A wants to make war with Nation B, let them do it. Let them fight it out. You know, if I've got two neighbors on either side of me that are going with war with each other, I'm just going to sit on my deck and drink lemonade with my leg propped up. Let them have at it. If I could serve as peacemaker, I'll do that. But you're not borrowing my pow-pows. And I've got pow-pows. I'm in Alabama, right? So that's a really good trend. Now, let's get to the attack itself and see what some observers and pundits are actually saying about exactly what happened last night. I've got three things I want to share with you, and they're eye-opening. I don't know if they're factual, but they are worth your consideration. And I want to start with Scott Ritter. Those of you, some of you, many of you will know who Scott Ritter is. Scott Ritter is anti-war. That's a good thing. And he is a former UN weapons inspector. He's a former Marine. Hoorah! He's an American, a proud American, a former UN weapons inspector. Scott Ritter is the man who basically told the world that what George W. Bush was telling us about Iraq and their WMD was a lie, because he went there himself personally and he said they're not here. They're just not. That's Scott Ritter. And this is what Scott Ritter posted on Twitter 13 hours ago. It's short. Just bear with me. I want to read. Understand, I'm not saying that I agree with everything that he says or anything that anybody else says. I'm just reading from all these different sources, folks, so that, and listening to podcasts like the Duran, so that I can expose myself to as much information as I can. I'm not going to just turn on Fox News for 15 minutes in the morning and let that be the end of it. Well, that's what's happening because I heard it on Fox News. I heard it from Sean the Pawn Hannity, so that's what's going on. Or I heard Mark Levin say it, so that's it. That's the truth. No. Listen to different sources, locally and internationally, so that you can gain some insight as to what the actual truth of the matter is. This is what Scott Ritter said, a man who knows more about this than I do, okay? That much I know, so he's worth listening to. Scott Ritter said this, and I quote, "An act of theater. Trump's big mouth had boxed him into a corner. Iran wouldn't play his game, so he had to bomb Iran to save face. And he bounced 6 bombs off an indestructible facility in Firdos, claiming destruction despite the opposite being the case. That's it. A contained strike, a nothing burger. And this is the man whose supporters call the greatest leader in the world. He's a national disgrace." He says he's a warmonger, not a peacemaker. Now, you can agree with Scott Ritter or disagree. I don't believe Trump is a national disgrace. I wouldn't go that far. But it's interesting that Scott Ritter, a man who knows more about this than I do, is questioning the ruling narrative of what happened in Iran last night. Now, 2 more things that support what Ritter is saying. This is from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. And this is significant, folks. This, if nothing else makes you start questioning the narrative we've been given, I don't know what will. The International Atomic Energy Agency said on Sunday, today, there had been no increase. Listen, there had been no increase in off-site radiation levels reported following U.S. strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including the Fordo site. Now, what's happening here? You know, if you trust the International Atomic Agency, you can accept that or reject it. That's up to you. But this is what they are basically saying, that last night Trump dropped bombs on sites that where nothing really was going on. That you just wasted bombs, that it was all for show, that it was all for theater. Okay, we bombed Iran, now can we go home? That it really wasn't what we're being told. It's something to consider, folks. I want to read you one more quote from Ben Swann. And Ben Swann tweets this: "I know this might sound strange, but hear me out. The United States told Iran," now listen carefully, please. "The United States told Iran that the American strikes on nuclear facilities were a one-off operation and were not intended to overthrow the Iranian government," the Wall Street Journal reported. And Ben Swann says this: "What if this is part of the deal that Iran agreed to? The United States warned, and the sites were empty. Iran might even be allowed to retaliate without causing American casualties. Then agree to a peace deal. Everyone saves face, because Israel and the U.S. have just declared victory, essentially saying they don't need to do anything to Iran anymore. Iran has made similar deals with the United States before. That is true." So Ben Swann is floating the possibility, and the Wall Street Journal, do with that what you will, is saying that Trump made a deal with Iran prior to this attack last night and basically told them, this is what we're doing, just so you know. And when we did drop the bombs, they basically did nothing. As Scott Ritter said, they were a nothing burger. So we are left, folks, to conclude this exercise with the question, what exactly happened last night? What is the truth? This is where you have to make up your own mind. is what we were told last night by the neocons who are dancing in the streets. People like Mike Pence, Mike Johnson, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Pompeo, John Bolton. They were probably out just salivating last night, partying hardy. Nikki Haley, are what the Trump administration and the ruling media, Western media, is what they are telling us that happened last night. Is that the truth? Or is what Ben Swann says, Scott Ritter says, and the Wall Street Journal posits as being a possibility, is that true? Or is it somewhere in the middle? I wish I could come to you this morning and tell you, listen to me, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened last night. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you this. I bet you I know a whole hell of a lot more than most Americans know this morning simply because I went digging. If you start from the baseline that everything we're told by a presidential administration and the mainstream media is a lie, then you have to at least consider that what Scott Ritter and Ben Swann are saying is at least plausible. And it does make sense, folks. It does make sense that we tip off the Iranians so they can save face, we can save face, Israel can save face, and that's the end of it. That to me sounds like the most likely scenario. And I hope it is. My hope and my prayer this morning is that it's over. We did what we did, and it's over now. There will be no more retaliation from Iran, and Israel can cool their jets, literally, and we can get back to some semblance of normalcy in the Middle East. Is that going to be the case? Probably not. But we can hope and we can pray that that is exactly what happened last night. And that is what I tend to believe. What do you believe? Comment down below and tell me your thoughts about Operation Midnight Hammer. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hey, thanks for watching so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody go out there and break a leg. I'm just kidding. No broken legs. No more broken legs. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.